folks. Why Would You Ask That is a podcast that answers some of the weirdest questions. A lot of those are inappropriate for some listeners. If you're squeamish, easily disturbed, or just having a bad day, this may not be for you. But if you've got to know the answers like we do, stay tuned.
Why Would You Ask That? Presented by myself, M, they, them, and
Karen, she, her.
Remy, he, him.
And today we're going to be talking about, something in the spirit of Pride Month, because it is June. We get a whole month. All three of us are queer in one way or another, in case you couldn't tell by listening to everything beforehand. But yes, we are all a little queer here. So today, Remy is going to tell us about the secret queer language from the 1950s, which, we don't really use anymore.
We have our own code now, and I mean it's pretty well out in the open now, but
we have a different code.
Yeah. Now we just we don't really need. I mean, people still probably need codes depending on where you are.
Oh, most definitely.
But these ones probably are pretty outdated and don't apply to us anymore.
I think actually there's a video of what's it called again? Starts with a P.
Polari.
There's a video out there of people speaking Polari, and it's interesting, because they're speaking in English, but it's a coded language.
There is. That was the link I was pulling up at the beginning of our session.
Pre-podcast discussion.
Yeah. It was on YouTube.
I don't know anything about Polari.
I'll get it for you.
I think I actually wrote a paper on Polari before.
There you go.
Of course,
Karen.
I don't retain any information whatsoever. But it was a British language form of
Pidgin?
Yeah, Pidgin is it's a simplified second language used between certain groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I don't know anything about linguistics, apparently.
And you're the one who knows different linguistics from this.
Yeah. Still not enough, though. But, okay.
Louisiana Creole is a pidgin.
Okay.
That's an example, so that you know.
It's extremely niche dialect.
Oh, the guys on the Tangier Island.
They speak a super duper duper old form of English. Yeah, so.
Okay. Very niche language. Okay. All right. So Polari is a language that developed for the queer community?
Yes. I sent you the link to the YouTube video. It's 6 minutes long. I don't know when you want to watch it, but I have sent it to you.
Thank you.
I actually really enjoy the video. I'll add it to the show notes as well. Everybody can enjoy.
Learn some Polari.
I've been thinking about adding a tab to our website called resources or something, because we mention websites probably once an episode, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
Where we tell people that they can...
Yeah, we do have a lot of inferences. I think maybe we should probably...
Yes, we tell people they can learn things.
Yeah. Have a post dedicated to each of our episodes where we throw in extra stuff. I don't remember the word for it because it's school stuff and I don't go to school.
Citations?
Yeah, citations, resources, extracurricular reading, all that stuff. Stuff to get more involved in the subject, because we're really just on the surface level here. I know a little bit, Remy knows a lot of it, Karen's whoa.
Yeah.
Sometimes Karen is the one who knows a lot of it or a little bit.
Oh, yeah. You and I swap, Karen. I just happened to write a paper not a paper. It was a short little article that I did when I was working as
yes.
a social media person for in like a group of queer people.
Yes.
we had, it was a queer cafe up in Canada, so I did a lot of the social media stuff before I left. So like what I know about Polari is basically it was used because, you know, being gay was very illegal once upon a time. A lot of us are too young to remember where being gay could, you know, get you arrested. And I mean, in Britain, homosexuality wasn't decriminalized until 1967. So before that, it was something that people used to just avoid being arrested or worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Remy.
Oh, you're fine. It's nice when you guys know more than I expect you to know. It came out worse than I meant it to.
No, you're fine.
I like walking in and being like, I know this! Me! Anyway.
Karen, do you want to watch your short film or your 6-minute film now or later?
Yeah, I'd like to watch it now. That's okay.
Okay.
I'll watch it with you.
Okay.
You watch it before we get started so you'll have some context of what it sounds like.
Great. Okay, I'm ready.
You know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Remy, are you going to watch it too?
I watched it earlier.
Okay. You
Yeah.
and me, Karen.
Okay.
Okay, so here I'm going to interject a little bit from the short Polari film that Karen and Em are watching so that you can hear it too. I'm going to interject a tiny bit from the beginning where they're speaking only a little bit of Polari before they confirm that they're both gay. And then I'm going to interject a little from the middle where they're both speaking a lot of Polari after they both realize that they're gay, and they're just sort of rapidly going back and forth with the slang. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
You from round here then?
More or less.
Iron's the place to be. Owner Bats, what size are your plates?
10, I think.
What about your luppers? They're size 10 too. But you play the Striller's real boner.
Is this your usual spot?
How do you mean?
I've got your number, Ducky.
So during this section, he's really just trying to gauge how big's your hands, how big's your feet. He's asking, and he says, I really bet you can play piano. And really what he's trying to gauge is, well, he's not only just asking those questions, but he's trying to understand if the other guy can understand the slang that he's using and gauge whether the other guy is gay. And so here's a little bit from the middle after the other guy picks up on the slang that he's using. After he goes, is this your usual spot? I get what you're trying to do here, Ducky, he says, like trying to insinuate that the guy's like a prostitute or something. So here's this part from the middle after they both understand that they're both gay and they're really getting going with the slang.
Where's your flowery then?
Clitterhouse Road.
Wotherben Cove up that way, Pauline.
Pauline Mark.
That's the one. Can't swing a cat but at a cove.
How is Pauline?
She's had an anti-bully fake. Dyed her eye or her ends a right mess.
Anti-boner. I hope she vagaried straight to the crimper.
That's where she'd just been. Pallone tried to give her an Irish, multi-palaver. Pauline told her to shove a shikel up her khyber.
She didn't say that.
Mate, we, Ducky, we, in your actual English.
She's all wind and piss, Pauline. She's still with Phyllis, then?
So this part is a little harder to understand if you don't understand the Polari, but basically what's happening here is the one guy says, okay, where do you live? And he says, well, I live over on this road. And the other guy says, well, I've got a friend over there named Pauline. And of course, they're not talking about somebody named Pauline. He's talking about a man named Paul, because people in Polari often took women's names. And the guy goes, Pauline Marsh, I know that person too. And he's like, of course, yes, Pauline. But Pauline has gotten into a lot of bad luck recently. She totally died and ruined her hair recently. And he's like, no, well, Paul should totally go to the hairdressers. It's like, yeah, Paul just went to the hairdressers and the woman tried to give him a wig. And he's like, well, what did Paul do? And he's like, Paul told the woman to shove that wig right up her ass. And he's like, oh, Paul is all wind and piss, which means Paul is all talk. Paul wouldn't really do that. And he's like, well, Paul did do that and told her in straight English too, which means didn't use any slang. And he's just like, no, well, is Paul still with Phyllis, meaning Phil, his partner? And he's like, oh, haven't you heard? And then I cut it off. But then the man says something sort of along the lines like dish the dirt, which is just like our version of saying spill the tea. And you can really see how we took slang from the 50s and 60s and brought it into the nowadays and just sort of updated it for us, which I think is really interesting and cool, how we pull from the past and bring it into our present. But I cut it off there because I can't play anymore. But we'll take it back to Karen and M now, because at this point they're done listening to the video and watching the video. But if you want to watch the video, I'm going to put it on our resource tab on the website, and I really do think you should watch it. Okay, back to Karen and M now.
That was incredible.
Did you get the gist of everything they were saying?
Not everything, but I think I got sort of some of it. Like, there were some parts that I definitely... So, are they both bisexual?
They're both gay.
Well, they're both gay. Well, okay. Because the girl walked by and they both stopped and stared.
That was a dude.
Oh, that was a dude? My bad. But so Scarf Guy, what I'm understanding is he was trying to convince the other guy to go to Pound Town. And he has kind of terrible game in that he's a player, and there was, what were their names? Pauline and Phyllis. I couldn't tell if they were lesbians or if they were trans women.
Paul and Phil.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now that makes more sense. Got it. Got it. Oh, that's very clever. Okay, so they both know the same people, Pauline and Phyllis, and one of them got caught by the cops, and did he end up going to jail? Or
Okay,
I could tell that part.
so guy comes in. He says he's basically checking to see if he's gay. Then he makes like, oh, you have big feet. Yeah, big dick, basically.
Oh.
And then they talk about Pauline and Phyllis, who are, not mutual friends necessarily, but people that they both know. And they're just gossiping about that. Then they check out the guy, and then more gossip. And then they start talking about people being in. And then at the very end, the reason it went sideways was because Scarf Guy
ratted on a guy that he was almost caught with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we good? You got it?
I think so. Yeah. I feel silly for not knowing, but I laughed at parts that I didn't completely understand, but they were laughing. So I was like, and I like kind of understood it. So I was like, I mean, it feels funny, but I don't fully comprehend the situation, but I understand enough of it to kind of laugh, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's why I hate watching sitcoms with a laugh track.
Yeah. I mean, and the points when they were, where he was talking about like Paul and Phil, because Paul and Phil are together. I don't know. There were points where Paul and Phil, like talking about them, it was like, oh no. Like, it's a weird sensation to be able to, it's like listening. It's like how when I read French, I like
kind of know it.
Yeah, like I know the words, but putting them all together in one place is like a little overwhelming.
That's how I feel about Spanish.
Yeah.
I do that with Spanish and French. So it's just like, bro, can you put them together?
Yeah.
But a lot of it, I think you kind of picked up on because we still use a lot of the same language.
Yeah, the first one you said was gobbledygook.
Yeah. And there's, other things they say. The words camp came from it.
Yep.
Butch.
Mm-hmm.
Scarper.
You're going to find that there's a lot of language that we picked up and kept from like the 1800s, as well as Polari also added to our lexicon. We've been collecting queer slang for a long time.
I love it.
I also have to say one of my favorite words is basket.
Oh, basket. Yeah,
Yeah.
what was that? What was he meaning by basket?
That's the bulge.
That's what I was. Okay. Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yes, so we're talking about Polari today. So, Bonataveda, your dolly old eek. Sounds like nonsense to you, right? But it's a real life greeting that gay men would have used in the 1950s and 60s, and it means good to see your nice face in Polari.
Aw. Aw.
Polari was a secret language formulated for use by the gay population in Britain during this time period. It's been lost, a lot of it now, but there's still plenty of it sort of like hovering around in the culture that we've managed to save through like songs. David Bowie wrote a song that has a lot of Polari in it, media, and people who have researched it. I wrote a paper when I was in undergrad in my senior year for history and structure of the English language.
Oh.
So I learned it then, and that's where I learned the phrases that I know. I'll throw the ones that I know in there, like I just did.
I love it.
Until 1967, homosexuality was illegal in England and Wales, and so to avoid imprisonment, gay men used Polari. It's a language that the Oxford English Dictionary says is made up of Italianate phrases, rhyming, slang, and cant, and it sprang up originally way back in the 1700s.
1700s.
Yes, it didn't originate in the 1950s. The very original form of Polari sprang up in the 1700s. The first time that
Wow.
any of these kinds of phrases ever came about was way back then with vagrants and itinerant performers and sailors in Romany. So Polari that was spoken in the 1950s and 60s sort of borrowed words from all of those classes of people and crammed it together into what it was then in the 50s.
Hmm.
Once it came to England, it was supplemented with like a wealth of slang terminology from a bunch of different sources, like Cockney rhyming slang, back slang, which is pronouncing a word as if it's spelled backwards, French, Yiddish, and also American Air Force slang. So it's just got like this enormously rich linguistic tapestry.
That's awesome.
Lovely.
Yes, that's why it's so difficult for those of us who don't know it, even if we wish we did, because I wish I knew more of it.
Yeah.
It's a dead language, or almost dead, because it wasn't something that was meant to be shared. It was a secret language. They did keep it secret
Yeah, mostly.
for the most part.
Yep. It was super useful as a means of conducting conversations in public, which if you were having these sorts of like, if you wanted to talk to somebody about how you were gay or doing gay things or gossip about people or anything like that, and you didn't want to alert people around you to those things, this would have been so useful. And nowadays, like you just said, Karen, the queer community has its own like slang and stuff, and there's a lot of it that people know, because a lot of people watch like RuPaul, and so they picked up like a bunch of words from there. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that maybe people don't pick up on unless they spend like a lot of time in like a gay bar.
Okay.
So like if I told somebody like an average person, if I was like, I met this really cute otter the other day, there's like not a lot of people I think that would just gather what I was talking about.
Right.
I don't know entirely if both of you know what I'm talking about, even though you're
No,
Oh.
we.
okay.
We do. We super do. Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't saying something that even you didn't know. Okay, that's good.
No, yeah.
Like
No.
I said at the beginning of the podcast, we are part of the queer community.
Yeah. Well, there's my queer community friends aren't like the type of people that go out to gay bars. So like I don't know a whole lot. Like my very good friend Evan, who I worked with for 3 years, he taught me a lot of stuff about like I don't think he even knew he was teaching me because I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Because I literally,
Taking notes.
yeah, I'm like just mentally like, okay, yeah, like, and if he heard me say that, he'd be like, Karen, that's super weird. But I'm like, I don't know, just I didn't grow up around a lot of gay guys, so.
Yeah, I grew up in a really tiny place, and it was very, or it was supposed to be. On the outside, they really wanted you to think very straight,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't. But they
Oh,
really want you to think that everybody there was straight.
wow.
So I know that a couple of people that I was in school with were trans because I met them way later outside of high school. I encountered them. They do drag now.
Good for them.
They're beautiful, both of them. And like, I knew a lot of bi girls, a lot of them. But yeah, so I didn't gather any of this stuff growing up either. I have learned it over the years.
Oh,
Since
same.
then, you know. So the people that I am around who aren't in the community, which at this point are just basically the people I work with, and even some of them are in the community, but most of them aren't. Like they probably they probably just in the context of like otter, they could probably tell you what a bear was because everybody knows that one, I think.
Yes.
But then they're not going to know any of the other animals.
No.
And there's a list. Like there's a pretty decent list of animals.
And even I don't know all of them. And like there's the complicated issue of like language as far as like what we can say and the way that like because I think that twink has been a very like has been a derogatory term, but I know a lot of gay guys that use it.
Oh yeah. Nobody else can call you a twink.
Yeah, exactly.
You can call yourself a twink.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or like another queer person can, you know, I think. But the straight people cannot.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I got you.
And like how stud is specifically it should only be used for black lesbian women who are very masculine, because I've just seen that. I've just seen a lot of women complaining about white girls using it, and they're like, you're not studs. That's not you.
Yeah, different words belong to different communities, and they should. Some words just need to say. So Polari belonged to the gay male community specifically. The women didn't really use it.
Women just wrote poetry to each other, and then and they said, "Oh, a man wrote this." Like, it's fine. Like
Yep.
they penned it as a man, and oh, I love that. Love that. Sorry.
Polari was used in the same way that we use it today still, which is to talk about people or the people that you want to hook up with, basically, so that you don't get like sussed out when you're around people that you don't want to suss you out. So, for example, like here's some more phrases you can be with your friend or like your boyfriend maybe, and here's like a sentence that I am aware of, like Veda the Naff strides on the Omi Ajax, which would mean like, look at the awful trousers on that guy.
Oh.
Or you'd be like, Bono lollies on the Omi to say he's got nice legs. Yeah, so it's just like that. You just throw them out there. And people who don't understand will just be like, damn Cockneys with their new slang. That's what it sounds like. So that's all they think of.
That makes sense.
And so in the video that we'll link on the website and in the show notes, Polari speakers can give themselves, and often did, different names too. So in this video, they have, what were their names?
Pauline and Phyllis.
Okay, Pauline and Phyllis. So they give themselves different names, oftentimes feminine names, or sometimes they sound like drag names, like Diamond Lil, stuff like that. And it's because, you know, they were just called feminine and like camp and things like that. And they'd use that in basically the same way that people do it now still, to take back the representation of themselves being that way in a more positive light. It just ultimately takes the power away from the people who are in the majority and helps the men to form a resilient worldview in the face of arrests and blackmail and physical violence. And then M said that it was a secret language and it stayed secret, but it didn't really stay secret, actually. And not just because we know it now. It didn't stay secret in the 60s either.
Oh shit.
So the BBC in the 1960s introduced Polari to a wide audience because they used it in a radio comedy that they started up called Round the Horn. And you can find recordings of it. They had a performer on there named Kenneth Williams and his partner named Hugh Paddock, and they did a skit where they used Polari.
Oh.
So it was a regular skit on the program, and they dumbed it down and they didn't use it like frequently. And on the BBC's website, they have a page about Polari and about their like history with the show that they did, this show Round the Horn. And so they play a little clip from the show with the dude saying like, he's like, and he's real masterful in the cabin upright.
Oh. Okay.
So they dumb it down a lot and they don't use it like frequently, like it's not like whole sentences and things. But by the end of the 60s, it had the opposite effect as probably they were intending to do. And it introduced it to such a wide audience that it became like so well known it wasn't useful anymore.
Oh.
Well, fuck.
Yeah,
It's not secret anymore.
Yeah, like they kind of blew the roof off. And now it's now everyone knows it. As
So they just straight up let the cat out of the fucking bag.
Yeah.
So did that get a lot of people in trouble?
No. So what happened was the people who spoke Polari anyway were starting to not use it as much anymore because at the end of the 60s, discrimination issues were already going on a downward slide in Britain. And at the turn of that decade, the young queer people were already pushing more for, like, you know, free love and coming out and being more expressive with themselves and less hide and be secretive. And so they stopped using it. They just quit.
wow.
So by like the 90s, almost no gay men had really heard of it. And now it's no longer used at all. But because of like the internet and people are having like a big push now to preserve historical parts of our past, now Polari is being preserved and more people have heard of it. So we're looking at it now as a like more respected, historically important moment in gay history for Britain. And sort of like you would look at Latin being an important part of the Catholic history, as being Polari being an important step for Britain's queer history.
Oh my god. We need to have like liturgies written in Polari.
Oh my God,
and I
Karen,
want them. What?
you read my mind.
I did?
Do you want to
Oh,
know?
absolutely.
So, a group of activists called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence created a Polari Bible.
Oh my god. That's fucking rad.
Yeah.
Where can I buy this?
You can download it for free at polaribible.org.
Oh my god, here I go.
I already had it pulled up in the other tab. Let me link it. No, I'm going to
Oh
link
my
it in a
God.
minute because I want to read it to you before I link it.
Yes, please.
So they ran Polari through a word list and a computer program that was created within English and like the known Polari phrases, and it created their version of the Polari Bible. It was bound in leather and displayed in a glass case at the John Rylands Library in Manchester. It wasn't done to like mock religion, they said, but to highlight how religious practices are filtered through different cultures and societies, and that despite not always being treated well by mainstream religions, there should still be space for gay people to engage with religion. And so then they held like readings. There was like a huge like thing happening where they gathered a lot of people and they all read from the Bible together wearing like white gloves. They would each like read from it. And
Oh my God.
and then and then a proper church took this Bible and they did their evensong in Polari, and then they had to apologize because their regular members got really offended because God is called Duchess in the Bible.
Oh my God, I love it.
Not in all places, but in some places, God is called Duchess, and God was called Duchess in their evensong, and they got offended, and the church had to issue an apology.
A little bit.
So, just so that you have an example, Genesis, the very beginning of the Polari Bible says, "In the beginning, Gloria created the heaven and the earth was nantiform and void, and munge was upon the eke of the deep, and the fairy of Gloria trolled upon the eke of the aquas. And Gloria cackled, 'Let there be sparkle,' and there was sparkle."
Let there be sparkle. And there was sparkle.
Yep.
Oh my God.
It's in its 7th edition now.
7th edition.
7 editions.
You can get
This
it.
is incredible.
Yes, it is. You can get it HTML and just read it on their website, or you can just download it in PDF or EPUB, and it's free. So we'll have to make sure to put that on the website in our resources tab. This is what made me think we need a resources tab.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I really like that. Like, my idea was like really raunchy liturgy that was like, we just wrote it ourselves, and then Polari like describing I don't know, Chad's dick. Like,
Chad.
and talking about like how great a lay he is, and he's the perfect top, and like that's the kind of liturgy I want. I'm so tired of the Bible.
We want the Song of Solomon in Polari.
Yeah.
So it's in there in the
Yeah.
Polari Bible.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That makes sense. I want to read all of the passages with David and Jonathan, like all of them.
So Polari is like nowadays having like a comeback, because of this. People preserving it in these ways. In 2012, another group in Manchester, a group of artists used Polari to highlight a lack of LGBT inclusivity in education by creating an exam in LGBT studies and getting volunteers to sit it under exam conditions. And the language portion was about Polari.
Whoa.
So now,
did everyone fail?
Probably.
Everyone failed.
So now instead of being spoken to create like a secret language so people can be safe, it's being like shouted and like used as protest to get more rights for queer people. It's experiencing a wonderful afterlife in a sense.
Yeah.
That's Polari. And way before Polari, there were other ways that queer people signaled to each other that we were part of the community. So what I wanted to touch on for the second half of the episode was the flower code that queer people have used for like long before Polari like really happened. For example, violets have been associated with Sappho since the 6th century. Sappho, if you somehow don't know, is the OG lesbian.
Mm-hmm. That's why lesbians call themselves sapphics, or not just lesbians, but people who enjoy. It crosses the spectrum. It's so long as you identify as feminine. Fem energy plus fem energy equals sapphic.
Yes. So Sappho was a Greek poet who lived on the island of Lesbos. It's close to Turkey's border, so close that you can see it from the shore. Her presence there was so profound that the word lesbian originated with her. Everybody from the Isle of Lesbos is called a lesbian, and they sued for the right to have the word back, and they failed.
Who did they sue? Please. Who did they sue?
Their own government.
Oh my god, oh no.
So her poetry contains a ton of references to flowers and nature. She paints like a lovely picture of an idyllic pasture where girls and women frolic adorned in garlands. For example, just a small snippet, because a lot of her poetry didn't like last. It just got lost over time. Many crowns of violets, roses, and crocuses together you set before more, and many scented wreaths made from blossoms around your soft throat. With pure sweet oil you anointed me, and on a soft gentle bed you quenched your desire. No holy sight we left uncovered.
Sounds moist.
So in these and other fragments, she references roses, violets, crocuses, honey clover, a lotus, and hyacinths specifically. And when she's not mentioning specific flowers, she mentions the color purple or violet multiple times, and which is probably how it ended up coming to be associated with the queer community.
Okay.
Violet.
Oh, Lavender Menace.
The Lavender Menace, yes, that's later. Violet remains in the pantheon of queer symbols today. It's one of the original colors that was in the pride flag before it was taken back out. Notably, a group of 7 gay male writers who met up regularly in New York City in the 1980s named themselves the Violet Quill.
I think I remember something about that.
So the interest in violets as a symbol of lesbian love came like really into fervor strongly in 1926 when a play called The Captive showed a female character sending another woman a violet bouquet, and the theme of lesbianism in the play was like so strong that there was an uproar and calls for boycott of the play. And New York City District Attorney's Office eventually just gave in and had the play canceled.
Oh no.
Aww.
Yes.
Ugh.
And so the association of violets with lesbianism from the play led to a plummeting violet sale in the US with US florists. However, in Paris, they still showed the play, and so there women started wearing the violet flowers on their lapels as a show of support.
Ooh, love that.
Yes. And in the 1960s and 70s, demonstrators and activists wore lavender during events that included a march to commemorate the Stonewall riots. Decades later, after the 2016 presidential election, Gilbert Baker reworked the rainbow flag design to include lavender so that the flag could have, quote, another color to represent diversity in the age of Trump, he said.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was there in the first place, that purple, and then they took it away and then they put it back.
That's right. Give it back.
And so for lavender, it's been associated with lesbians and queer people and stuff for a long time too. It was around the turn of the century when lavender started being like associated with gay men and used as a derogatory word for gay men. Historian Carl Sandburg wrote in 1926 about Abraham Lincoln, quote, a streak of lavender ran through him. He had spots soft as May violets, quote.
That man chopped wood, and even if he didn't chop wood, I don't know. What am I trying to say? Maybe Violet did run through him, but he still chopped wood.
Woodcutters are gay? That woodcutters are gay?
I mean, femininity does not a gay man make.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, for sure. But Carl Sandburg was definitely trying to say that Abraham Lincoln was super feminine by calling him lavender and violet. And those words were really heavily associated with the queer community at the time, so it's very telling that those words were used. A lot of people have associated the fact that he used those words with the fact that it was associated with the gay community during the time. Many interpret that way, and a lot of people attribute that interpretation with Lincoln having maybe a queer relationship with Joshua Fry Speed, because that was his guy. But there's also a lot of historians that really don't want you to think that. But it's reasonable to interpret it that way, considering the association the words had during the time.
I think he had some gay shit going on.
It's okay if he did. Come on.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he did.
Oh yeah, I know. I was arguing with Carl. It was okay.
Oh.
I thought he loved his wife.
Maybe they were cool with it.
Oh, you're right. That is also a possibility.
We don't know. He lived a long time ago.
He did, and we don't really know about what went on in his boudoir.
I don't know.
I'm so
Just speculation.
I don't know. He lived a long time ago. He sure did. I'm gonna be opening up shit, be like, oh man, and it's gonna be like just some guys like very, very gay, very, very obvious. Like, I don't know if he's gay. He lived a long time ago.
You know, there's really only one way for us to know the answer.
Time travel?
We have to go to Yahoo Answers.
My God.
Here's my question. Lincoln gay?
Does Lincoln is gay?
Does Lincoln is gay?
That's a perfect Yahoo Answers question. If they hadn't shut down.
Oh, no.
You didn't know?
Now what
Now
do we
the
do?
place for
What?
stupid questions is Quora.
Oh.
I saw a question
I
on
mean,
Quora the other
Quora-
day called, how do I turn into an incubus?
I love it.
And
Okay.
after that was like a bunch of questions that were all the same question asked different ways, which was, how do I summon an incubus?
That's the one.
But also, incubuses are bad. Like, they don't do good things for you. Like, they're sexy, but they're also gonna, like, kill you.
A lot of people are just like, it's the sex ghost. They want the sex ghost, bro. They're like, just do it. Let's go. And they're not gonna be like Googling anything like, what does incubus do? And all they say is like, it got a pee and it go to Pound Town. You're like, oh, and then they don't think about, well, maybe the Pound Town is gonna be used for nefarious purposes, huh? Maybe. Who knows? Not you, who the guy who's trying to become a fucking incubus, succubus.
The third question was, I tried to summon an incubus and it didn't work? Question mark. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was just looking stuff up about incubus and succubuses, and it just led me there, and I was down a rabbit hole. Anyway,
Just love that shit.
that's how I learn all of my information, just going down rabbit holes. Not on Quora, though. You don't learn anything there.
You just like go there to see like humanity. Like what is the snapshot of humanity today? Oh, I see.
Okay, yes. So, there are two movements associated with lavender in the queer world. That's the Lavender Scare and the Lavender Menace. The Lavender Scare was a 1950s witch hunt for homosexual federal employees. That's like a lot like the Red Scare was for communists. And the second, the Lavender Menace, that was Betty Friedan called any potential association of the National Organization for Women with Lesbians, quote, the Lavender Menace, in 1969. Not wanting to tarnish her organization's reputation, Friedan led now to distance itself from lesbians. Rita Mae Brown and other lesbian feminist activists planned an action where they like disrupted the event by like revealing these t-shirts that said Lavender Menace on them, in much the same way that now we have shirts that say Nasty Woman on them.
Ooh, yeah.
Yep.
Or pussy hats.
Or pussy hats. Stuff like that. So all these women showed up and then like opened their coats and it said Lavender Menace.
Oh!
Encouraged a bunch of people to join, and they earned the crowd support, and the moment was remembered as a turning point in the movement. And now the National Organization for Women's next national conference in 1971, they said, no, actually, I think lesbian rights are a legitimate concern for feminism.
Mm-hmm.
And so, actually, the Lavender Menace did a good thing there and wasn't as bad as she made it out to be, was the conclusion to the event.
It ain't so bad.
So that's those two. And then for the next flower, have you ever heard someone call someone else or been called a pansy in an effort to insult strength or masculinity?
Yeah, I've heard that. That's kind of an older one.
Nobody's ever dared.
It's ridiculous and it's really dated, but it's a slur. But it used to be, not really anymore, but it used to be a slur botanically speaking, pansies are really hardy and resilient, so it's particularly stupid that it became a slur at one point in time, but still.
Yeah, that don't make sense.
In the early 1900s, pansy, as well as buttercup, daisy, and also, and this is funny, horticultural lad.
Horticultural lad. Oh my god.
What is that supposed to fucking mean?
Flower boy.
Flower boy. You horticulture lad.
You horticulture lad. Yeah. Some of those, like,
That's something I would call somebody as a joke. Be like, I gotta intensify this funny mean thing that I'm saying that's not serious.
horticulture lad sounds like your next blog title.
It's just, it sounds like a bad superhero. It's just horticulture lad in an old cartoon. So dumb.
Yeah, you said buttercup, and I immediately remember my dad always. He, I don't know when he would say it or what it was in reference to, but it was kind of like saying, it's kind of a saying that you would say to tell somebody to kind of grin and bear it. It's like,
Buck up, buttercup.
yeah, pucker up, buttercup, or something like that.
Pucker up.
Pucker up, buttercup.
I don't think it was pucker up, bro.
I think you said it to when I would have to take cough syrup.
Oh,
Not as much as up the lip, over the gums, look at stomach, here it comes. But yeah.
what the fuck? You just said that really quickly under your breath. What?
Up the lips, over the gums, look out stomach, here it comes.
Did I make that up?
No.
No. My dad's like in his 70s, dude. He says like some like older sayings that like I say them to people and they're like, the fuck?
Oh, that's what I'm doing right now.
Exactly. So
Yeah, we're the old people now. I work with a bunch of 18-year-olds and I feel very old.
oh yeah, you look at them and you say, oh, that's boss, and they're like,
Boss what?
I was joking around with some colleagues my own age the other day, and I was talking about how I remembered a time before Google, and there was some younger people there, and I felt really uncomfortable when we were done joking. Suck it up, buttercup, is what I've heard.
yeah, that's probably it. I don't know why I think pucker up, because I think of like buttercup, you drink it so your lips kind of pucker and you go like
I've always just heard buck up, buttercup.
Well, we've heard 3 different ones. Either way,
yeah.
they probably all mean the same thing, which is to get over
They
something, or
definitely do.
get over it, or do it whether you like it or not, or whatever. Yeah.
But I think in the it's in the sense of like buttercup is kind of the derogatory part of it.
Yeah.
And saying that you're being very scared, like you're being very dainty. So you got to get over it and like you got to push through it.
Yeah, that is what it means there. So all of those, including horticulture lad, were used as terms for a gay man right around 1900 at the turn of the century, or for any man exhibiting characteristics for what people considered unmanly, which was largely being feminine. So pansy was the flower that stuck around as like the name that the gay community took for themselves for a while, largely due to the underground drag balls that experienced a surge of popularity in Los Angeles, New York, and other big cities through the 1920s and 30s.
Drag balls.
They were called the pansy craze.
Pansy craze.
Now,
Pansy craze.
I don't know, have you heard of these?
No.
Fucking no.
Okay, I was fairly certain neither one of you had heard of the drag balls that was happening in the 1920s.
I've heard of dragon balls, but not drag balls.
So, because as far as I was aware, probably not a lot of people knew that drag queens existed in the 1920s.
Oh.
But actually, wait, I had a picture. Where'd it go?
Who fucking knows? Not me.
Exactly. Who knows? There we are. There's my picture.
Aw.
Drag queen from the 1920s.
I love that hat. Damn. Look at her.
Yes.
So, okay, so drag goes back a ways.
Drag goes back even further than the 1920s.
Like as
Actually, significantly further.
as drag as we know it today.
These were gay bars where gay men dressed up as women. They cross-dressed and performed in drag.
Okay.
Here's some other pictures.
I like these.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like a lot of like drag as we recognize it, or as a lot of people recognize it today, is the exaggeration of the eyes and the lips, the cheekbones. Like those are like the key components for the most part. And then, but there are, of course, drag queens who do more like what this is, where it's just cross dressing, which is more what I have a hard time defining the difference.
Drag queens are putting on a show and cross-dressers are trying to be passable, is my understanding of the difference.
Got it. Yes. That's how it was in my brain, and I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings if they were like, I don't know. I have this incessant fear that I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings.
That's okay.
I mean, it's a good and healthy fear to have when we're dealing with subjects like this.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
fear in these instances. But yes, so drag goes back way longer than the 1920s, but the pansy craze was the 1920s to 30s. So drag performers were called pansy performers because of their colorful clothing, and the pansy craze of the era helped to kickstart a legacy of gay nightlife. Especially in New York City, drag balls were huge and extravagant. The police eventually shut them all down, including one in a 1939 Harlem club that ended a 70-year-long tradition.
Boo.
Likewise, Hollywood's pansy craze, quote, of queer representation in film was also ultimately shut down by censors, but not before the movies helped bring queerness to a national consciousness, because for a little while, queer people could be in movies, and then we got censorship.
Yeah.
And the Hays Code is
Yeah.
its own stupid thing that we could talk about some other time. Today, LGBTQ plus activists are working to turn the derogatory meaning of pansy around. Also, just like in the other things I've talked about. Among them is an artist activist named Paul Harfleet, the founder of the Pansy Project. Harfleet and his collaborators are spending years planting single pansies at the site of transphobic or homophobic abuse as a way of symbolizing hope against discrimination. He says of the pansies, quote, "Not only does the word refer to an effeminate or gay man, the name of the flower originates from the French verb meaning to think, as the bowing head of the flower was seen to visually echo a person in deep thought," end quote. So if you want to learn more about that, his website is may17.org/guerrilla gardening in the pansy project, and we'll put that link also on the website.
Woo!
Love that.
So the last flower that bears mentioning is the green carnation, which became a queer symbol in 1892 when Oscar Wilde instructed a handful of his friends to wear them on their lapels to the opening night of his comedy Lady Windermere's Fan. So from then on, wearing a green carnation on your lapel was a secret and subtle hint that you were a man who loved other men. Not that Oscar Wilde was necessarily secret and subtle himself, because he wasn't.
He was
And
not.
as a matter of fact, Oscar Wilde loved men openly enough that you can find documents from the time that explicitly state that people in England knew he loved men, but he was very popular. And then eventually it just got to be too much.
And then they just were like, ugh. And Oscar Wilde was like, suck it.
I mean,
And then they were like, no, you go to jail. And he's like, whatever.
Whatever, square.
Yeah.
nice summary. Oscar Wilde he's my favorite. I like him a lot.
Yeah. He's great.
We gotta talk about it sometime.
We have to.
Mm-hmm.
In 1892, Wilde's lover, Lord Alfred Douglas, wrote a poem called Two Loves. It's reminiscent of Sappho's poetry as it paints images of flower-filled utopia. The first little bit of the poem reads as such, just so you can get the imagery. I dreamed I stood upon a little hill, and at my feet there lay a ground that seemed like a waste garden flowering at its will. With buds and blossoms, there were pools that dreamed black and unruffled. There were white lilies, a few, and crocuses and violets, purple or pale, snake-like fritillaries, scarce seen for the rank grass, and through green nets, blue eyes of shy pervench winked in the sun. And there were curious flowers, before unknown, flowers that were stained with moonlight or with shades of nature's willful moods, and here a one that had drunk in the transitory tone of one brief moment in a sunset blades of grass that in 100 springs had taken slowly but exquisitely nurtured by the stars.
Wow.
And then the poem goes on to describe a young man who's handsome with wind-tossed hair, twined with flowers.
Lovely.
He's wearing 3 chains of roses around his neck. They kiss. His cheeks are white. His lips are like lilies and red, like poppies. Yeah. He says that the boy says his name is Love, and that he is the love that dare not speak its name. And that is the phrase that's used at Oscar Wilde's homosexuality trial.
Oh.
So those are my flowers. There's actually more flowers that's associated with homosexuality over the years, and there are more codes too. But I thought that was probably all I could fit into one episode. Flowers and languages. Those are 2 big ones that we've had over time, us in the queer community. And whatever flower the community uses or symbol or secret language, we've always been here and fighting, and we keep doing it. And like pansy and lavender and queer, we just have to keep reclaiming whatever words they throw at us.
Yes.
We will, and we shall. But thanks everybody for listening. We are very excited to take your questions too, because we want to hear them and we want to answer them, and we are so super qualified to answer questions. So what you can do is you could visit our website, which is whywouldyouskthat.com, and go to that little contact form, throw in a question, or you could email us at whywouldyouskthatpod@gmail.com. So please send us your questions. We don't care how weird it is, how gross it is. Just don't ask any personal questions. That's our one line. Ask your weird questions. That's what we want. So thank you for listening. This is M, Karen, and Remy, and ask us some shit. Thank you. Good night.